All right, welcome back to our 2023 Stanley Cup playoff previews. And the next one's going to be a big one. We're going to preview the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Tampa Bay Lightning, a rematch of last season's playoffs. And can Toronto break their curse? Can they make it past the first round for the first time since 2004? Will Steve Dangle not lose his mind this time? We shall see, I guess. I really don't know if Toronto loses this series, if Kyle Dubas will still be manager next year. I really don't know. So I think a lot on the table here, and I feel like it's as good of a chance as any for Toronto to make it past the first round this time, because I don't think Tampa has been as good this year, below 500 in their games after the deadline, I believe, and I believe since March too. So I think Toronto has a good chance here this time for sure, but we've said that many times in the past, haven't we? So we'll see if Leafs fans can finally have some happiness. All right, so before we get started here, our bracket is right here. If you haven't watched the bracket challenge video, please make sure to watch this. It's a nice video talking about my explanations for who is going to win each series and stuff. Although I'm not a hockey expert by any stretch of the word. Anyway, so let's get into the preview here between Toronto and Tampa. Game 1 is Tuesday, April 18th in Toronto at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. The Maple Leafs 50-21-11 on the year, 111 points. They scored 278 goals and they allowed 220. Their top six skaters, Michael Bunting, Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, Ryan O'Reilly, and William Nylander. Their top four defense, Morgan Riley, TJ Brody, Liljegren, and Drake McCabe. Their goaltending, Ilya Samsonov, 27, 10, 5 on the year, 2.33 goals and average, and 919 save percentage. Matt Murray, who is on injured reserve right now, 14, 8, and 2 on the year, 3.01 goals and average, and 903 save percentage. And Joseph Woll, 6, 1, and 0, 2.16 goals and average, 932 save percentage. Woll should be the backup to start the series. We'll see if Matt Murray comes back at some point. But anyways, it should be Samsonov and Woll to start. Power play for Toronto, 26%, second in the league. Penalty killing, 81.9%, which is 12th in the league in the season series. Went to Toronto 2-1, and they outscored Tampa 11-8. For the Tampa Bay Lightning, 46, 30, and 6 on the year, 98 points. They scored 280 goals and allowed 252. Their top six skaters, Steven Stamkos, Braden Point, Nikita Kucherov, Ross Colton, Anthony Cirelli, and Alex Killorn. Their top four defense, we have Victor Hedman, Nick Perbix, Mikhail Sergachev, and Radish. Their goaltending, Andrei Vasilevsky, a very experienced goalie here in the playoffs, 34, 22, and 4 in the year, 2.65 goals and average, 915 save percentage. Rather mean average numbers for Vasilevsky, for sure. And Brian Elliott has the backup, 12, 8, and 2 on the year, 3.4 goals and average, 891 save percentage. Power play for Tampa, 25.4%, which is third in the league, and the penalty killing at 79.7%. So, some storylines here. It's a rematch of last year, obviously, and for Tampa, they have won 11 consecutive postseason series until they got defeated by the Avalanche in 6 games in the finals last year, and they've been in the finals for 3 straight years. And for Toronto, obviously, no round wins, no postseason series wins since 2004. Obviously, they will want to change that narrative. For Toronto, I think they feel much better equipped after the deadline here with the additions of Ryan O'Reilly, Noel Acciari, and Sam Lafferty. Also, I did say Noel Acciari mistakenly was on the Rangers. That is obviously incorrect. And yeah, sorry for any confusion in our last video on the Rangers and Devils preview. And they also got Jake McCabe and Luke Shen. So, yeah, I think Toronto's in a very good position this time around with a lot of additions. And in terms of the big players here, obviously Mitch Marner, what a season he had this year, a lot of assists, and almost was able to get the 100-point barrier, couldn't do it, so close. Kucherov did get the 100-point barrier, 113 points for him, so a great season for him as usual. And for the goaltending, Ilya Samsonov expected to be the starter here. He's been a bit banged up here and there this year, and hopefully he'll be fine to start the playoffs. He should be. And for now, it looks like Joseph Wall will be the backup for Samsonov until Matt Murray comes back. But no one's going to be betting against Andrei Vasilevsky, although his numbers have not been too fantastic this year. I think he's done the job, and we know how hard he can turn it up in the playoffs. Now, some X factors here. Ryan O'Reilly, I think his leadership will be very valuable, and pedigree of a former Stanley Cup winner in the St. Louis Blues. Maybe that can kickstart the Toronto Maple Leafs to some success here in the playoffs. And for the Tampa Bay Lightning, although Victor Hedman has had a rather lower year in terms of production, in terms of points, second lowest total in the past 7 seasons for him. It's easy to be misled, but Hedman always plays fantastic hockey in the playoffs. And yeah, it happens for sure. And now the path to victory for both teams. Toronto, I feel like it's been in their head. It's been way too much in their head for the last, I'd say, few seasons. And they just need to overcome adversity. And that's the key. They have to get out of their own heads, the mental baggage. Yeah, they created this baggage and they will need to cast this off if they want to exercise those demons. And the Tampa Bay Lightning, obviously, they've always turned up the intensity in the Stanley Cup playoffs compared to the regular season. And this year, I think we've seen a bit of a decline in some of the overall play for Tampa. John Cooper, obviously, a little displeased with how Tampa Bay has played down the stretch. We know the championship pedigree is there. There has been some inconsistency in Tampa, and I think they might be one of the, not to say worst teams, but basically the lower teams in the spectrum of the 16 teams in the playoffs this season. Not gonna lie, but we've underestimated Tampa Bay in previous seasons when they've had struggles heading into the playoffs. And people will make mistakes if they underestimate this team. Now, let's take a look at some stats. Obviously, for Toronto, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and Austin Matthews, all above a point a game. So great forward core there. Their depth is a little questionable, but it's good enough. Morgan Riley, 41 points, and Mark Giordano, 24 points on defense. For Tampa, 113 points for Kucherov, point with a 50-goal season, 95 points. Stamkos, 84 points. Mikhail Sergachev, 64 points, looking good. Victor Hedman, 49. So our prediction here is going to be Toronto in 7 games. I feel like it has to be 7 games because of their history. It's only right for them to win in 7 or lose in 7. Now, I feel like last year was an indicator that Toronto was heading in a better direction in terms of their playoff success. They were toe-to-toe with Tampa last year, and I do think Toronto has been better this year, so in terms of their players and their additions to the lineup. So if there was a year that Toronto breaks out of their curse, I think their biggest chance is this year. So let's see if they can live up to that tall task, because I feel like jobs are relying on this year. So we'll see what happens here. It's going to be a very exciting series, one that a lot of people will tune into for sure, including myself. So it's going to be a fun one. Anyways, that's going to be it for this preview. Stay tuned for more coming out in the next few hours. And Stanley Cup playoff hockey begins tonight, everyone. So do get hyped for that. And anyways, we'll see you in the next preview. Take care, everyone.